Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Irish Fitness Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the Irish Fitness Championships, Ireland's premier CrossFit competition. Every year we try to find the top athletes in Ireland, both male and female. We obviously didn't get around to it last year. We had to go online, and the year before we had to cancel, but this year we're bringing it back big time. The first weekend in July, keep that free. Tickets will be going on sale soon, so keep your eyes out for that. Shano, how we doing, buddy?
All good, man, all good.
22.1, huh?
Ooh, what a workout.
How did it go?
Oh, good, yeah. Well, I thought it was good. You know, I think we said on the podcast the other day, the first one we did when we came back, that, well, I thought anyway, it wasn't as bad, looking at it, not as bad as previous, maybe, first open workouts that I've seen past weeks, and past years in the first week. So, yeah, I got 2 goes off it. Big improvement on the second time I done it. And yeah, I enjoyed the workout. You had a go off it as well, didn't you?
I did. I said I wasn't competing this year as such, but I promised to do all the workouts. Just to give them a little test. When we had the live announcement in here, I saw it.
Yeah.
And I instantly liked it. I thought, yeah, I could do that right now. You know, I barely need to warm up for it. You know, it's low weight, lightweight, low skill. The wall walks obviously get a bit difficult after a while, but the snatch and the box jumps, happy days.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, or I liked the fact that they made us step down as well. I think from a safety point of view, as I said last week, you know, stepping down for most people is a good idea because it's not going to hurt them. You're not going to blow out your Achilles or knee or anything like that.
Yeah, and it probably comes from past years where we've seen bounding in the open, and really good elite athletes are going to bound a burpee box jump over and stuff like that, and they're going to go touch and go. I feel like regular people probably shouldn't go down that path. Even some higher level athletes probably shouldn't go down that path of that much jumping. So they probably saved a lot of injuries there.
I agree.
And a lot of people falling over boxes might be another one as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Which could be a big thing. But yeah, overall of a workout, and like I said, I've done it twice. Because it's 15 minutes, it just hurts so bad.
It's so bad.
After the 5-minute mark, I remember just being in the worst. It's just the worst feeling ever. But it's a continuous. You can always do any of the movements. So one of our coaches here, David, was judging me the other day doing it, and he was just like, you can always do a wall walk. And it's very true. It's very hard to not be able to do one wall walk.
Yes.
You know, doing multiple touch and go, maybe is just
give yourself a few seconds, bit
but
of a rest.
When you're lying there, you can probably do one. So just do one, you know, and that's what it became. And it became about transitions then, obviously, as well. That was a huge thing, I thought.
Yes.
How fast can you get from the box to the wall to start your first wall walk? Because if you waste time chalking up, doing whatever, that's time where you could be working, you know. That's why I try to get across to my athletes as well. So
it's about continuous movement, wasn't it?
That's all it was. Great test though.
Fantastic test. I think I did my first 2 rounds in about 2.5 minutes. And it went all downhill from there. Absolute disaster. I wasn't expecting any great score or anything like that, but you know, you're still fit up in your head, and sometimes if your body is not doing what your head is telling it, things can go drastically wrong. And that's exactly what happened to me. I turned around after the first 2.5 minutes and I said to Ian was judging me or whatever, or he was counting me. And I said, I think I went too fast. Great workout though. Some fantastic performances.
Oh my God.
What did we see? How was the leaderboard going?
So we'll start with, because we might start with the men last week, start with the women in Ireland, because that's obviously what we're highlighting here.
Yep.
Who other than Emma McQuaid?
Absolutely.
Taking that top spot. 364 reps. If I'm not mistaken, that must be 11, maybe 12 into the 12th round. Could be a bit more.
So it's 12 plus 4 reps. I think it's 30 reps.
30 reps around.
Per round.
Yeah.
Nice and simple to count. And she got 20th in the world with that.
Yeah.
Super performance.
Yeah, and Aoife Burke is just under her. Again, Aoife's always up there with the best in the country.
That seems to be the 1-2 the last few
always,
years, doesn't
it? Aoife's a phenomenal athlete, and then obviously people are climbing the leaderboard.
That was the 1-2 at the IFC in 2019 as well.
She pushed Emma on some workouts. Now Emma is obviously in a league of her own. That's known now. But Aoife is well able to push her on some workouts. Now Emma's obviously in the I mean, she's going for the world place rather than Ireland. I suppose Aoife is obviously focused on now qualifying into the quarterfinals rather than chasing the top spot of Emma McQuaid. So with all these elite athletes, you're going to see they'll probably do it once. I think rarely they would need to do it twice unless they really messed up the standards or they got their judging wrong or something like that. But they're going to do them once. They're probably going to qualify easy enough into that top 10%. So that's what you'll see on this. But these leaderboards, I suppose, are the product of what you see, like hard work and just seeing who's competing this year, what athletes are doing what.
Seeing where, and I think it's nice as well, even at Emma's level, to see yourself at the top of the Irish leaderboard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and see that you're still a dominant champion in terms of Ireland. I know she's going on into the games and hopefully podium there and even do better over the next while. But it's nice for her to just clean up at home, I think, as well.
Yeah.
There's always that pride about being your national champion, isn't there?
Yeah, and there still is that national champion spot. Now, it doesn't earn you a spot anywhere, but it's still a title that you hold, Looking down the leaderboard then, Kerry Hewitt in third.
Kerry Hewitt, we talked about her, we expected her to do well, didn't we?
Yeah. Martha Rochford making a huge climb up the leaderboard as well. Compared to years past, 318 reps on that. Obviously an athlete that's just progressing every single year.
Shout out to Martha, she trained down here a lot, down in CrossFit Waterford. She has her own place, Yellow Belly.
Owner of Yellow Belly CrossFit up in Wexford.
Ian Goulding in Wexford. They look like they're doing fantastic, so well done, Martha.
Yeah, huge performance from her. Looking down the line then,
Mary
people would have
Kate
seen...
Foran, this is ridiculous. Her and Curtis only had a baby about 6 months ago, and now she's sitting pretty in 5th in Ireland. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mary, putting it down for all the new mothers. What a performance, though.
It's becoming more common in CrossFit now. You're seeing a lot more mothers and fathers in CrossFit.
I think
at high level as well.
If you're a good CrossFitter, right? First of all, you're training going into the pregnancy, which gives you that resilience to have a great pregnancy and stuff like that, and a good delivery because you're strong and your muscles are strong and things like that. And the fitness that you build up during the build up to it, and obviously before that, and during the pregnancy, that has to stand to you, doesn't it? On the recovery side of things.
Yeah.
On the recovery side of things, like my wife wouldn't be the CrossFittiest person in the world, Stephanie. And we had 2 babies, and there was a long recovery. Now she had sections and stuff like that, but it definitely seems that the fitter you are going into the pregnancy and staying active during it, the quicker you rebound back.
Yeah.
And that's a severe rebound.
I think so. Just doing more work and
314 reps, so that's 10 rounds plus 14.
Yeah.
So she got into the snatch on the 11th round, which is phenomenal.
Brilliant score. Yeah. Claire McGlynn is in there at 10th. I know she's also on the Masters leaderboard now.
Kayla Harkin, who's that? I'm not sure. I haven't seen her before. Do you know her, Shane?
I'm not too sure. I mean, we're going to see names now pop up on this.
Harkin, sorry.
We're going to see names pop up on this.
Shout out to Carla. Chloe Hawkins as well, doing fantastic. Emma Smith, Emma Willis, 80-20, and then Claire McGlynn rounding out the top 10.
So the men's then in Ireland, definitely a lot different to what I've seen years past. Now, one thing to note is that this is week 1, and if there's one thing that's for sure is that the Irish men's leaderboard in Ireland, it's so competitive and it's going to jumble every single week. You're going to see the similar names at the top. You're going to see PD, Sam, Mickey, but we're seeing more and more people rising up that leaderboard. Someone I was looking at here is Mark Rowan. Pretty sure Mark is training in Sweden now. Mark was up in Kildare training, I know, last time, and he's after improving hugely over the last 2 years. I know he's doing some weightlifting as well.
Is he a master?
Mark, no.
35?
No, Mark's pretty young. Mark was trained with Sam Stewart. I know they're good friends, so they would have came from the same gym. Another one I saw up this leaderboard was Harry Chambers. Huge performance there. He's 2nd in Ireland.
Massive. Harry is a young guy from Waterford. Waterford Warriors. He's training out. He coaches down there as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Shout out to Harry.
And Harry's after bursting onto the scene here. I haven't really seen him in years past on leaderboards, but 331 reps there. Like, that's a top score in the world.
11 rounds. 11 rounds plus 1. Brilliant. Dan Booser, that's one of Emma's guys. Super athlete. He held, I can remember even saying it to Emma, is that real score? So there's a workout that's, it's like it's a modification of the Miko triangle. So you start off with the ski erg, you do a minute of that for max cals, then you do a minute on the C2 bike, and then a minute on the rower, and then you get a minute break, and you do 10 rounds of that, so it's 39 minutes. Dan Booser held 24 calories on all 3 machines for all 10 rounds. And I saw that and I was there, what the fuck?
How?
I said to Emma, is that possible? Did he really do that? And she said, yeah, I was there with him.
Wow.
Absolute animal. I think
24
Dan,
calories.
shout out to Dan, I think he was a professional hockey player. I think that's what
That's
he was, or
insane
something got to do with
capacity,
hockey.
yeah.
But mother of God, 24 across all machines for the 10 rounds.
Oh my God. Most people only do 24 in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And he's doing it.
I did it on my last round. I just went all out on the rower.
Me and
held
you did
18.
last time.
No, last time I got 20. But this is when I was training for the Open there last year. And my last round, just on the rower, I got 24. I held 18 for all the rest of them.
18 is still
and then 24, but 24 the whole way through is absolutely phenomenal. So shout out to Dan, another one in the daily grind. Sam is in there, 6. Again, I think Sam, the likes of Sam and Petey and a few of the boys, they're only treating these as a one and done, aren't they?
Yeah, they're peaking for quarterfinal, semi-final time. Even the quarterfinals, honestly, for these guys, you're talking about CrossFit Games level athletes, and Sam is a CrossFit Games athlete. Petey is qualified in the past, and Jamie's gone on a team. Like, they're not going to have to really give this and peak for this. So their season now is just, this is a training session. Quarterfinals is a training weekend. Semi-finals where they have to make their move and try and get into that CrossFit Games spot if possible. You know what I mean? So, because they have obviously spots on the line there.
Alan Wells, you familiar with him, Shane?
No, not someone I've heard of. Great score though.
There's a few guys. On week 1, you'll see a lot of, I won't say unknowns because they're probably popular among, their circle or whatever, but fellas you don't really recognise.
Somebody you wouldn't have seen on the past.
Standout guys in one particular workout. And then what happens over the weeks is it starts to kind of become more familiar.
Yeah.
So the well-rounded athletes start to come to the top.
Yeah.
Because as the weeks stretch out, then it gets more well-rounded. You see more movements, more time demands, more weights. So you'll see, the usual suspects start to climb the leaderboard. Then
And sometimes you see guys stick up there as well, which is equally impressive, isn't it? You never heard of them and then they stick up there.
You can't doubt out anyone these days. There's guys training away. They're not making a big splash on social media.
No.
They're keeping everything veiled, which is great for them because they make that big splash. Then they're announcing themselves on the leaderboard rather than, hey, look at me, I'm a fucking show pony on Instagram. So it's good I like watching videos as well, but I understand the guys that do hold back a little bit. Fraser talked about it in his book. He was talking about, he was actually on, we're going to have a guest on after this, guys, Peter from Coffee Pods and Wods. And I listened to him talking to Peter, and he said, why would I want to give away my secrets to my competitors? Now, depends on what kind of level you're at or whatever. I don't see just a normal Joe Soap. There's nothing wrong with putting up Instagram videos. But I think his mentality was, right, I want to take absolutely every edge I can.
Yeah.
And if I give anyone even a smidgen of what I'm doing, they might be able to use that either as motivation or inspiration or education to use against me.
Yeah.
And they'll get an extra 1%. And I don't want to give away that 1%. So I thought that was very interesting. So you will see guys that, the only time you will see him is on the competition floor or on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And respect to that. Jamie's in there. We talked about Jamie last week. Always consistent. Good score from him. Almost 11 rounds. Kyle Doherty. We familiar with him?
No.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of new guys up in the top 10.
Yeah.
Hopefully they stay there, but I have a feeling that we will see the more experienced athletes come up in week 2 and then especially week 3 we'll see a more
You're going to see more of a
balanced
separation probably in
leaderboard.
the workouts even going into next week. I don't know what you're expecting. I'm expecting a lot of burpees and a barbell at some point.
Yeah, barbell for sure. And
if they keep the same team as last year, there'll be a lot of pull-up bar gymnastics and maybe the last workout. But you never know. Next week could be thrusters and pull-ups. You don't really know. But I like the format of last year's Open where it was the wall walk double unders, then we done the 17.1 repeat, then we done the kind of mash of every pull-up bar gymnastics in CrossFit. So
I love that.
And it was a great separator, and then the lift at the end, obviously. So you have basically every test.
Everything.
You have,
Four scored events.
You have endurance, you have strength, and you have gymnastics as well. So
excellent.
I don't know what we're expecting, but you're going to see a big jumble on this leaderboard for sure.
I think so.
There's still some familiar names here coming out outside the top 10 that are going to just keep rising. Louis McMaster is there, obviously the Masters leaderboard too. Patrick Conroy, has been doing this for a while now.
Yep.
Yeah,
Shout out to Pat.
He's always in around those leaderboards, loves competing as well. One guy I've seen pop up now and again is Jack Kavanagh. really, really talented athlete. I think we're going to see him make a splash this year.
Where's Jack sitting now?
Jack's in 14th.
Come on, Jack.
10 rounds and 10 reps he got. So
Jack
Kavanagh, yeah.
Robert McFall and Jack Kavanagh in 14th. Michael Welch. Mickey Smith is there, former Games athlete.
Yeah.
Ian Golden, Darren Giles, and then bang, Dano then is in 20th.
Dano's there, yeah.
And then like there's world class athletes here in the 20s. Jim Neal and Lewis Pearson. Two teammates, side by side, 20 each. Well done, boys. Shout out to Lewis. He just moved to Virus.
Yeah.
So a big, massive. I know he wrapped it up with Ollie Clothing. They're still going, but he moved on to, we'll say, I'm not going to say better things, but definitely bigger things with Virus. Virus will be getting involved in the IFC this year, guys, and hopefully the Viking 24. So keep an eye out for that partnership.
One funny thing I saw here is Tig and Craig, the two brothers. Tig beat Craig by 1 rep.
Look at that. The Lawless brothers.
He got 1 dumbbell snatch on him.
I wonder were they beside each other when they were doing it. Shout out to Craig and Tig. Let us know if you were doing the workout side by side.
I might have seen a video of Craig during the week in Perpetua doing it. I don't think Tig was there doing it with him.
Okay.
So maybe they done it again together. I don't know, but that's a funny one.
He got his brother by 1. He trains in Rob's, but he works in.
He works there as well, Perpetua, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's your top 20 men's.
Okay, an honourable mention, lads, that we didn't mention last week, and we should have done because she's legit the future of Irish CrossFit.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah.
Number 2 at the Games last year in the 14 to 15 girls division, Lucy McGonigal. Absolutely phenomenal athlete. I believe she'd be 15 years of age now.
Yeah.
We had to take a look at her Instagram. She's clean in like 92.5, ridiculous weights. I don't know if I can clean 92.5.
There's men in this gym that won't get near those weights and what she can squat and her abilities. So, like, fair play to Lucy. Second at the CrossFit Games last year. That's huge. The teens at the CrossFit Games after changing so much over the last, 8-9 years of what it used to be and how they used to do things. So obviously we used to have an online leaderboard. Then they made it a proper competition where there was actually video. And then we had, I remember Tig went for Ireland. That was huge for us as well. But Lucy to come second at those, like you're talking Mal O'Brien, that type of territory of potential. Of
absolutely. Like she came second when she was 14 against 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
What's she going to do this year?
Playing above her age.
Like how many reps did she get on that?
I think she had 3.
Would they have used the 15 kg?
383. That's an insane score.
That's nearly 13 rounds.
Yeah.
Unreal.
She's first in the world by a mile.
Brilliant.
In her
big
category.
shout out to Lucy. Sorry we missed you last week. A big oversight on our point. But we're looking forward to seeing you do big things now over the next few years.
I had a message from Patrick Linehan during the week. He was telling me I'm still in the 16, 17s. Don't put me in individual yet.
Is he? Hey, come on, Paddy.
So I got a score there. He's third in Ireland in the teens.
Excellent.
Always hanging around up there, 240 reps. So great performance from him. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do over the next couple of weeks. He's an exciting athlete as well.
Yes, 100%.
Shout out to Paddy, listener, friend of the show.
Shout out to all the teen athletes, and you're literally the future. You're coming up, you're coming through the ranks. You're probably wishing you were, older so you can get into that next bracket or whatever it is. But just enjoy the process.
Definitely.
Listen to your coach. Don't try and rush things. It's all about that progression and that process, isn't it, Shane?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to start CrossFit at that age, it would be in a rush to get in. But like, you have such a small pool of athletes, and you never know who's going to come out of it based on your abilities. You could have an athlete who was a former elite at some kind of sport and transfers out to CrossFit very well, and then you could have someone who never done any sport and all of a sudden is elite at CrossFit as well. So it's a cool thing to keep an eye on, and then sometimes people get through it and they never do CrossFit again. They come all the way through the ranks and they go to the CrossFit Games and they never do it again. Get burnt out. I know CrossFit's actually taken procedures on their programming to make sure of the longevity of the teen athletes.
Are they?
Based on percentage on weights, volume of like single leg stuff, overhead stuff.
Did you say they are? Or?
They have done it the last couple of years. Things have changed big time.
That's good. That's good to hear.
I remember reading an article about the CrossFit put out, and it probably was around the time when Tig Lawless went and represented Ireland. The CrossFit Games done phenomenal as well. Of the type of weights they're doing, like should they do if the individuals are doing pistols? Should they do as many pistols as individuals? Maybe not. if you have a 15-year-old that's developing, should you
Yeah.
put that much pressure on their joints,
Yeah,
have
they
them
definitely
deadlift so
don't
much
need
weight.
to be the exact same
So
as,
they
as an
definitely
adult.
took some procedures on their programming side of things, where it's kind of a free-for-all at the very top. It's kind of like, can you withstand the volume at the very top in the individuals, men and women. But in the teens and the masters, there's things that they put in to make sure that we want to keep these people coming through the ranks.
That's good.
You know
I'm
what I
glad to hear that, because you can still test fitness without being too extreme.
Yeah, and CrossFit
You know, as long
definitely
as
has,
they're doing
it
all
has a bit
doing
of
the same
reputation
thing.
of just obviously volume and injuries and stuff like that at the very, very top of the sport. Now, I think day to day in a CrossFit gym, are people really going to hurt themselves that bad? No. But it is a sport at the end of the day.
I'd like to ask our next guest about what he thinks about how things will change now without Castro.
Yeah, it's an interesting
will
one,
we see
isn't
a
it?
lowering of volume, or what way will that go? Because obviously, Dave has been involved in the programming and handling the. I know that he comes up with the ideas, and then he gets advice from people.
He has
and
a
tests
team.
things, and he has a team.
Adrian
But
Bosman, those
basically,
guys,
he comes up with the majority of the program.
He does, yeah.
And then they tweak it. They say, right, let's try this, let's try that. Will things change?
I mean, the big question now is, did he write these open workouts? That's the question on everybody's lips now. Like, is he ever going to release something and say, is he allowed to? Did he sign something to say you can use these? He was obviously an employer of CrossFit. Employee of
did he
CrossFit.
sign a fucking non-disclosure as well?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Are we going to see him popping up on a podcast, Peter's podcast, hopefully?
Yeah.
And or maybe
Ours. We have a podcast.
Dave, shout out to Dave if you're listening. Go on me, baby.
I forgot we
we're
have a
doing a
podcast.
podcast right now. yeah. So that's the leaderboard, folks. Next up, we have the king of Irish podcasting. We're like the princes, aren't we, Shane?
We're the OGs.
We're the OGs, yeah. We're like the kind of uncles, aren't we? Or you're the nephew. And then Peter's the king. So up next we have Peter from Coffee Pods and Wods. And today's guest is Mr. Coffee Pods and Wods himself, Peter. Peter, how are you doing, bud?
Good, thanks. Good.
Glad to hear. We had some technical issues last night, didn't we? We had you booked in for last night.
It's a fine run ship you have there.
Just to give you a little feedback, lads, we tried to get him on last night, but we're probably the most amateurist podcasters at the moment.
Yeah, look.
Do you know what it is? We're a little bit out of practice. That's what I was
going to say. It's been 2 years. Peter's a pro compared to us. He was trying his best to help us out with the technical side of things, but I suppose we have a lot going on ourselves as well, and we kind of ran in last minute thinking we can get this going, and we really couldn't. But Peter actually helped us out a lot, even getting this set up. So switched up a bit, and now we're rolling. We can hear him and we can see him. That's a plus.
We couldn't hear you or see you last night, or you couldn't see us. That's what it was. We could hear you a bit, and then we couldn't get you through the
Maybe we might have been better off just recording last night then.
Yeah, maybe.
You couldn't hear or see me, and I couldn't hear or see you. Maybe it'd be better for the listeners. Nobody could see or see anyone.
See no evil, hear no evil, isn't it? How did you go with it? So 22.1 came out last week. Obviously, everyone got a few shots at it. We got a bit of time to digest it. We talked about the leaderboard last night, me and Shane. How did you like the workout? How did you think it played out? And were you surprised what came out of the hopper?
I don't think I was surprised. I thought we'd definitely see wall walks again, because there tends to be that thing of like new movement in the open, then it's at the games, and then it's in the open again the next year. It tends to be the thread or trend. But yeah, I think I was listening to Svan's podcast the other day actually, and he seems to have some kind of information either from Dave or someone else where Justin Berg said at the announcement, like, we changed the workout, we made some minor tweaks, and Svan was like, they weren't minor tweaks, like they changed a lot of it. So I'd be interested to see what the original, because remember like Sean Sweeney was in the Aromas with Dave, and like he was in an absolute hoop, and Dave was saying like, what are average people going to do with this workout? So it's kind of that workout, unless it was a different one, that workout doesn't really strike me as that kind of workout where people, like, will be that bad from it. Average people would say. It was good, it was fun, it was accessible. I think it's exactly what the open needs to be fair, especially with the new structure where these 3 weeks should really be largely, everyone should be able to do it. I think I was kind of reminded of the purpose of it in our own gym, where just people I hadn't seen in ages, and everyone was there, and there was great energy. And I like from clips I've seen around the country, around the world, it seems to be the same, where just everyone's able to get some level of involvement from it. And I think the first week tends to be that, like where most people can engage with it. So I'm kind of, I suppose, maybe less competitive than I was in the past. I was never really fucking competitive. Like I never had the right to be competitive, but I was competitive. Whereas now I'm kind of like, it's just a bit of crack. And I think because it's just a bit of crack, I'd rather not see, like, say, muscle ups next week. Do you know, that kind of way? Because then I can fully engage it or whatever with my ego intact. But yeah, it was good. I did better at the wall walks this year than last year. I lost a bit of weight, so that probably made them a bit easier. Box jumps, grand. And then dumbbell just is what it is, I suppose. It's just an inconvenience between, like, I heard a lot of people saying, like, oh, like, the wall walks aren't the important thing here, the box jumps are. And I was like, fucking speak for yourself. The wall walks are pretty important for me doing it. But yeah, no, I thought it was very enjoyable. The leaderboard is largely as I would have expected it to be after week one. Some of the names you'd expect to be up there are up there. A few, like, wheelhousey people are up there. We'll see if they still hang around for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, no, it's very enjoyable. And like Friday Night Lights, incredibly enjoyable in our place as well.
That's what we were talking about last night, about the leaderboard. On week one, you generally see guys, you'll see some of the favourites, obviously. You might see them down, like, oh my God, this person is down in 15th or whatever it is. But I think exactly what you said, as the weeks go by, we will see the well-rounded athletes come to the top, and you'll see the usual suspects then coming up.
Because there's bound to be like a heavy lift somewhere, and then you'll see people, like, say globally, you'll see people like fucking Klokov and that Wall Street lifter lad, like, push everyone else down. But like, it averages out over the few weeks. Like I think globally the most surprising thing I saw was like Brent Fikowski's in 3,000 and something.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, he'll still qualify, but like I'm curious as to, obviously there's a new system in place, and I saw Sarah Sigma's daughter put up a thing there today about reminders for herself for the Open, and one of them was like, it's not about the Open, like when talk about redoing it comes up, remind yourself that it's not about the Open or whatever. But it must be hard when you're an ultra competitive athlete to just let it go and just be like, yeah, that's fine, I don't mind that I'm in 300s, or like when every other year up until last year you've been fighting redoing it 4 or 5 times just try and get that extra rep or whatever. So it must be a big adjustment for them, I'd say.
Yeah, they're like, they have to literally change their whole psychological approach towards it, because everything was on the line to get into regionals and then into the sanctionals then as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And now since last year, it's like, okay, lads, this is just to get everyone involved. No matter any of the elites, they're pretty much guaranteed to make that top 10%. Now, unless you get a really bad workout, like you get injured or something like that.
But I suppose the way CrossFit is written, you're supposed to be well-rounded enough that if a workout gives you some trouble, like it did for Brent over the next 2 weeks, be able to just kind of round that out pretty easy when a barbell comes up, some pull-up bar gymnastics come up or something like that. But like Peter was saying, we said it last night as well, we did a little preview show to the leaderboard and for this, and it's kind of like those 1%ers should only really do it once, and they should be peaking for something that's quarterfinal, semi-final. Then they can make that move to the games if you're games level. But if you're like me, my CrossFit games is the quarterfinals. So for me, it's all around the Open. And if for someone below me, their games is the Open. You know what I mean? So I think like you said, we'll see that kind of even out. But it's really fun to watch sometimes when it's not you. Right, if it's you and you're like, oh Jesus, I'm just on the bubble or whatever, it's terrifying. But when you're watching like elite athletes, especially someone as entertaining as Brent Fikowski, like we've seen him do amazing things and stuff, and you're like, geez, he got trouble from a box jump over. You never would have thought, you know what I mean?
It's nice to see they're human, and they do trip up every now and then, or they have bad days or bad workouts or bad competitions or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it does make it a little bit more exciting when there is that something to play for. I don't like watching. I like watching dominant champions, but sometimes when something is a sure thing, it takes a little bit of the excitement away.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That kind of way.
Yeah.
Like I don't like watching one-sided fights. I like watching a battle.
I was going to say that's probably why something like martial arts is so interesting, because anyone can get knocked out type of thing. CrossFit usually has someone dominant. We're going to probably see Medeiros probably take it this year, maybe not, but like with the kind of fitness he has and the age, he's probably going to take it. And Tia as well. Like if we're looking towards the games, that's something I'd be like, I don't think this will be too much bother for them. But when like we saw Fraser retire, we're like, oh, who's next? You know what I mean? Who's going to take this? Is it going to be Fellner or whatever? But it's the same at any level, I suppose, as well.
See how it goes. What did you think of the exit of Castro, Peter? Were you upset about it, or did you like it? Did you like him? Do you think it'll be much different now of a sport without him?
It'll definitely be different. I think I suppose I can see both sides of it. Like I think I felt bad for him. I felt bad for the way that it was done. Obviously, we don't know the ins and outs of it, but like he was clearly like just elbowed out, and I just think it was handled so poorly. Like it was just awful. Like, okay, if you're going to let him go, let him go. Don't let him go in the middle of the season. You should have done it like before there was any talk of workouts or anything. You should have just like been open about it and had an honest conversation with him, parted ways, whatever. But I think just it was just very abrupt, very weird. It was it was handled very poorly. The optics of it weren't good. It was embarrassing then when they said, when he came out and said, like, they asked me to say it was mutual, but it wasn't. Like, that was embarrassing. They shouldn't have asked him to say that. But that's, as like far as I'm aware, that's just classic corporate. Like, let's just pretend everything's great and go our separate ways. And he obviously wasn't ready to do that. I mean, I don't think he's going to struggle for opportunities or I can easily imagine him programming the Invitational or something like that. I don't think he's going to be stuck for a bit of work. Will the sport be different? Yeah, I mean, I'd say it'll be less cutthroat. Like it'll be less. I think there's obviously still be a focus on the elite when it comes to the games, but I think in the lead up to the games, I don't think it'll be as focused on the elite. I think, from my opinion on it, looking so far anyway, they're trying to make it more inclusive, by like lowering the bar a little bit, and making it a more community, like really focusing on the community side of things up until it gets a bit more serious. I think, like, you can only bring something so far when the figurehead is as abrasive as he was or is. Like, he just doesn't take any shit. He's not like, he'd tell you to fuck off if you asked him the wrong question, or he just wouldn't answer, or he just whatever. Like, I've heard him do podcasts before, and basically all he says is, I'm not ready to talk about that. And like, it's still entertaining because like he's just such an asshole when he's saying it. Like,
I think he's definitely the heel. He's the heel of CrossFit, and it's mad to think that someone who's not an athlete is like the heel. Someone who's like, it's like the same in wrestling years ago. You have that kind of character. Everyone's like, boo, when they come out, and that's literally Dave Castro at the CrossFit Games. You know what I mean? But
I think, like, to be honest, I think from listening to him, I think when the hardest thing for him was when he when he was moved away from the education side. I think that was like, he really loved that. I think he had a bit of crack with the games and he enjoyed the program and obviously testing people, but I think like this kind of persona he had was just a bit of crack and whatever, and I think the education thing probably hurt him more than being let go from the game stuff. I think that was his pride and joy, I think. But like, you can see, he still loves CrossFit, he still believes in the methodology and everything else. Like, so I'd say it'll be very different. Maybe not this year, but I'd say, over the next 5 years, you'll see a big change in like the messaging and that kind of stuff, and just, I suppose, like the professionalism of how the messages are shared and how the information is given out, and like who knows what first and how they know it. Like, it won't be some story or a comment or something said in a podcast or on an Instagram story or something. I think it'll be very clear messaging, and that'll be very different, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like, if you look back over the last 3 years, we've had 3 CEOs, and they're all gone now. It started with Glassman, didn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously he got the boot. Whatever
you've
you think
had
of that.
5 in 6 years. You had Glassman, then the other lad, then Glassman again, then Castro, then Rosa.
Who was the other lad again?
I do remember that.
Peter.
I do remember when Glassman stepped down the first time.
Glassman made him CEO, and then removed him.
I think,
Okay.
but I do think that was a whole mess with Glassman as
That's
well.
four.
But I do
Then. That's
think,
4 different dudes on
Yeah.
five separate occasions.
And then I assume there's a CEO now. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there has to be.
There
wouldn't
is.
it?
So
Rosa
Rosa
is now
stepped
the
down again.
CRO or something like that.
But that
isn't
was
it?
the plan. That was the plan with CrossFit when Rosa came in. The plan was that he was going to come in and for, I think he said like 2 years or something, he was going to be CEO and then he's going to step back.
Okay.
But I know he had some personal problems, so he did it sooner. He did it really soon, and he got rid of Castro just before he did it. So that was probably the decision he was thinking about. Maybe down the line of, we're going to change the kind of tongue-in-cheek thing that CrossFit puts out of like, like Peter said, the way things are portrayed in CrossFit is kind of strange by CrossFit. So you have the figurehead of CrossFit, Castro, and he's putting out Instagram stories, and that'll tell you everything you need to know if you're a games athlete, which is not right at all.
It's a bit weird as a corporation.
So and the last thing that went up, obviously, Peter said as well earlier, Sean Sweeney was doing that workout in Aromas, and what I found funny and very, very Castro and very CrossFit at the time, not now, is they beeped out all the movements, but they left in all the curses. Which, when you think about it, it's hilarious that they do something like that, but it's also like, who are you appealing to here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're gonna say every curse word under the sun, but you're gonna beep out toast the bar or double unders.
They're trying to get rid of a certain image.
I think so, yeah. And that was the first move. That was the first move of getting rid of that figurehead who is that person. Navy SEAL doesn't really care what people think about him. So
it's looking like CrossFit, the brand now, more than CrossFit and Castro and Rosa, so they don't want this an emperor or a king or whatever you want to call him, or a figurehead. They want it to be about the name, and then about the games, and then about the community.
And about the affiliates. That's the huge thing now they're going for, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That's
it
fair
does.
enough.
That's how we always wanted it, I suppose.
It's not good for business to have a really polarizing head.
I think so, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? A dude that is out shooting guns and all that, whether you agree with it or not, or like you said, he doesn't give a fuck, Peter. He'll say this and that to whoever he wants. He's not listening. He's not there to make friends or whatever. Maybe in the long term, CrossFit as a brand is better to have CrossFit as a brand as the head, rather than a dude like Glassman or Rosa or Castro or someone like that.
Yeah, as long as they don't move the goalpost like they do every single year in CrossFit. So they've changed the rules now. This is the best system, in my opinion. We can get Peter's opinion now in a sec. In my opinion, the best way they've ever done it, as in Open is 3 weeks long, not 5 weeks. There's a quarterfinal stage to separate that 10%. Then it goes to the top, let's say 20% or top like 5% in the world. Then the 1%ers go to the games because they're elites. I think that's the best way they've ever done it. What do you think about that, Peter? What do you think about the kind of format we've seen since, I suppose it's been since COVID when they really actually brought it in. But what do you think about this kind of stages of the games, we'll say now?
From talking to the athletes, they like it. So if they like it, I like it. Like, if it's better for the sport, if it's a better funneling system, it's definitely better than sanctions. I mean, obviously, it's like a bit shit like that there isn't as many events. Like, as a fan, it's a bit shit that there isn't like Filthy 150 and then another one the next weekend, another one whatever. Like, that's a bit like raw because I suppose we were kind of spoiled for a year or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But like, once the athletes are enjoying it and once they're happy with the system, I think just leave it alone. Like, because like I said there at the start, these 3 weeks, you'll know better than I will, but from where I'm sitting, it seems to be an easier 3 weeks for affiliate owners and coaches, that there isn't as much like pressure, that training isn't as affected for the general population as much as it is when it's over 5 weeks. I'm assuming there's going to be less injuries and stuff when it's 3 weeks instead of 5 weeks. There's less like panic around like space, equipment, all that kind of stuff, because there's I suppose a lesser amount of movements over 3 weeks than there will be over 5, so you don't have as many demands. I think it takes the pressure off the athletes. They can just have a longer off season. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the people who are like going to the games, they're just doing this workout on a Friday morning and then carry on with their lives. Like, they're not like peaking now and then peaking again in another few months and then again in another few months. I do think something needs to be done about the timing of the semi-finals and the last chance qualifier. I just think it's a bit unfair, like how much time someone who finishes, say, third in the first weekend has to prepare for the games versus someone who wins the last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
Like, they've made it to the games, but it's like, and I get it that, they didn't make it the quick way, but like the slow way is just too slow. Like I
Yeah,
just think
yeah.
it's too long of a gap. Like it's weeks and weeks of extra preparation and like from speaking to people who've been to the games training is a fuck lot different from semi-finals training or any other kind of training because it's all like long runs, long like swims, all that kind of stuff that you wouldn't be arsed doing for a semi-final. So I think that will probably, I assume, be like kind of fine tuned over the next few years, hopefully, if it's left alone. But yeah, I think it's different, and it's the same with Castro gone. Like it's different. Like it remains to be seen if it's better or if it's worse, but it's different. And like I suppose people don't like change generally, so the fact that this change has been largely welcomed has to be a positive thing then.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
By that I mean the games thing, not Castro. I don't think that's been largely welcomed, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I think in 2 to 3 years, a good percentage of people won't even know who Castro is.
It's true.
Unless they go
Same
looking
as they
back
won't
to
know
it.
who Matt Fraser
That's
is.
just the way it is.
Unfortunately, yeah.
They won't know unless
I'd be
someone's...
fairly confident you ended with affiliate now, like just an average affiliate.
Yeah.
I just said show of hands and just started naming people. I'd say there's an awful lot of people who even last year didn't know who Castro was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
okay.
you're
You know, like
That's
if
okay
you're
as
not on
well.
Instagram or if you know, like it's like if you don't watch the documentary or whatever.
Yeah.
Even if you do, like he's only on it for whatever 2 minutes of screen time or that. Like, it's not like it's. I suppose it's the same in any sport though. You go, if you talk to someone who follows football and name some like the chairman of some German club, I'm like, who the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like your knowledge only goes so far.
You're
And I
right,
think
you're right.
people who are doing the Open for a bit of fun, if you say like, "Oh, I just see Castro's clue," they're going to be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" They're like, "Do you not just find out the workout on a Thursday night? I don't know
bang
Friday
on.
morning is there." That's another positive change as well, though, is the timing. Like,
Oh, yeah.
what a treat last week being able to watch the announcement like that without like losing sleep and stuff. I think that's like that shows that they actually give a shit about the global affiliates and not just like, hey, California, let's all get ready for a comfortable time for us. Like, I think that was a big step in the right direction. as well.
Huge. And Peter, in terms of your CrossFit now, I know you're doing the Open and stuff and you're getting stuck in. How long are you training now in CrossFit and how did you get started? I know you were up, I can remember listening to your very first podcast. I think it was late 2019. Was it with Wolfhound Joe?
Yeah, Joe Nangle. Yeah.
Joe Nangle, yeah. You were up with him, you're training with him.
Joe's
back
a
then, weren't
beast.
you? Joe's a beast.
Joe is a
he's-
beast.
I'd expect him to be up,
Yeah, he's a tank.
crawling up the leaderboard now over the next couple of weeks. I think he's in the best shape I've ever seen him in, actually. Yeah, I've been training there. I think I went there the day before it opened, and was asking what the story was. And I remember like being confused why there was no machines or like there was no like cable pull or lap pull down or because that's all I knew from gyms. And he was just like, "Oh, sure, come in. We're doing a class tomorrow." And I was like, "Fucking class! Like, I'm not going to a class." Like, I was picturing like spinning or like jazzercise or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it was like a Tabata, moving along the stations, and I was like, "Jesus, this is actually good crack." And like fairly minimal equipment. They were just starting out. Like up until that point, he'd been driving around his Jeep with like kettlebells in the back, doing like parish hall workouts and stuff.
Brilliant.
So to see where he is now, where him and Katie have brought Wolfhound is like, it's actually indescribable the growth that they've had. Like they've got the 2 senior county teams in there doing strength and conditioning training. They've got like waiting lists for classes. They've been upstairs. They've expanded everything. Like it's like if anyone ever wants to emulate something, like that growth has just been absolutely incredible from where it started to where it is now.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I've been training there since it opened, basically. Kind of, like I kind of say, I was kind of tricked into doing CrossFit. Like it was like never called CrossFit. It was just like, oh, here's like a workout and we'll all a class, whatever. And then like Metcon started to be said, and then like EMOMs and AMRAPs, and you just kind of grew accustomed to the different terminology without thinking about it. And then it was kind of like one day I remember just thinking like, fuck, am I doing CrossFit? And like I had been one of those people of like, CrossFit's such a pile of shit like previously, and then fucking obsessed with it, like loved it, like you hook it to my veins. Yeah, I was training there a long time. I went through all the different phases that everyone goes through where I wanted to be like amazing at it, but I was shite and like slowly started improving and then trained hard but ate shit and then ate right but trained shit and I've gone through all the different stages, redoing open workouts for and just I had no business even bothering my arse. But yeah, now I'm at the stage where it's just a bit of crack and I enjoy it. Not getting in there as much as I want to get in there, just with family commitments of two young kids, a 2-year-old and a 5 or nearly 6 month old. So there's a lot of guilt about leaving the house. There is no guilt put on me, but it's kind of just an internal thing of I feel bad leaving. So probably don't get in as much as I like. I've a bit of stuff here at home now that kind of makes it a bit easier. So yeah, when I can get in, I get in, and then I signed up for a half marathon on Paddy's Day. So any of the time that I'm not there, I'm kind of running for that. Ty Carroll's actually teaching me how to run.
Brilliant. Cool.
Fair play to him. So yeah, that's after that. Then after Paddy's Day, I'd say I'll probably start just actually moving better and doing a bit of strength stuff because it's nice cherry picking for a while, but then kind of gets a bit you kind of do a class and you look around and you're like, God, why am I so weak? And then you're like, oh yeah, I've trained fuck all for the last 2 years. That's probably explains it. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to kind of hopefully getting a bit more time back and getting a bit more training in then.
That's cool, Peter. Yeah, it looks like your setup there behind you. It looks pretty good to me as well. You can get a lot done with an assault bike and a barbell.
Yeah, there's a rower over there.
Oh yeah.
I've got a pegboard in the corner.
Oh my God.
Mike Russell. I bought that off a gym in Cork that was selling it, and Mike Russell had it. Brought it up to Powerful Invitational and gave it to me, and I was like he was not put out by it, but it was a bit of an effort for him to bring it. And every so often he'll message me being like, "How's the pegboard going?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have it on the wall there. I can just pull that down. It's not even screwed in."
That's the lowest pegboard I ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
that's
so
for your
I think
6-month-old,
I got
I'd say.
More with Sloan in mind.
Yeah. I was thinking.
I figured she'll get more use of it than I will.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You have a nice little setup there. And Pete, it sounds like you have the kind of standard, getting into CrossFit kind of thing that we all had in the gym.
Yeah.
We all kind of started there, dipped our toes in it, got into it, started getting more serious. And like you said then, hook it to my veins.
That's literally it.
If you're into CrossFit, you would literally want it into your veins.
You're in. Yeah, you're all the way in, aren't you?
And how did you start? How did you get into the podcast, bud?
It was around the time Filthy was on. I had Tim Paulson was over for Filthy, and he did a workshop, seminar thing in Wolfhound. And a few of us went out for dinner afterwards, and we were kind of chatting about different stuff. And I asked him, it was the year, so he had the fuck up at the games where the rope climb workout, the first cut.
Oh yeah.
He was just shite at he just messed up the whole workout basically. And I asked him about it at dinner. I was like, how do you process that? What do you do when that's happening? Do you just how do you talk to yourself when you're looking at the rope and that you're fucked? And we kind of chatted about it a bit, and then he was like, oh, no one's ever really asked me that. And then I was thinking that must happen all the time though, where there's athletes that have those kind of moments and people just kind of gloss past them, either good or bad, and just kind of move over it. So that kind of planted a bit of a seed that I kind of thought there was more to dig, because a lot of the interviews I'd seen were just oh, what kind of food do you eat and how often do you train? And
that sounds exactly like our ones. That sounds exactly like what we were doing.
And what's your diet
It's no disrespect to anyone.
Yeah.
There are people who want to know the answers to those questions. But I feel like the athletes can only answer those questions so many times. And then it's come on, we need to dig a bit deeper here.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. It's like a comedian telling a joke, isn't it?
That kind of planted a seed, and then I remember that shit pints of Guinness.
Shit London Guinness, yeah.
Yeah, Joe was saying that I should do a shit flat whites page, because I'm really I get really pissed off if I order a coffee at a shit. I've walked out, I've left it there and just walked out, paid for it and just left it on the counter as a statement of this is shit, and walked out. And I was telling him that, and he was like, "You just start a shit flat whites page." And then I remember replying to the message saying, "I think I'm going to start a podcast." And then he was like, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Yeah, Coffee Pods and Wods." Name just came into my head, and I just sent it. And then I drew out like that logo on a piece of paper and sent it to him. And then I was kind of like, well, if I've said it now, like, so I better actually do something about it. So I just bought a mic, asked him if he'd be on it, chatted about coffee podcasts and training and coaching and stuff. And then did a few more and did a few more. And then I asked Tim Poulsen if he'd do one, and he said, yeah. And then Talking Elite Lads did one, and then like Arm and Hammer. And then I was like, fuck, who else can I get? And then COVID hit, and then I could get fucking everyone because everyone was just sitting on their hands at home. And
Yeah.
I remember like got Vellner, and I was like, Jesus, like if I can go, like who can you not get if you just keep working at it? So yeah, I suppose it came like a personal mission to just see how ridiculous I could go with it. Like who's the most outrageous person I could ask and get on it, and then it kind of shifted. I remember like for a while I was obsessed with like the numbers and who's listening and how many people and all the rest. And like thankfully I kind of pulled myself out of that in time and just kind of enjoyed it more. And then it started becoming about like, okay, who's ridiculous person I could get on it. And then it became like, oh wait, if I get someone massive, who can I get the next week that deserves to be heard but might not be heard otherwise? And can I get people who listen to the ridiculous name one week to stick around or come back and listen to some person who doesn't have as many followers or doesn't have as big of an audience, who has an equally interesting story? And like who can I get to listen to these people? So that's kind of what it's about now. Like I had Fraser on last week, that was great. It's like ticking it off a list or whatever, but the real purpose of that is like, okay, will some of those people now hang around and listen to, Joseph Samakin today, or will they listen to like Annika Greer on Friday or whoever? Like, like that's kind of the purpose of it now.
I love it, man. I love the way the varied. Obviously, everyone is in the circle or whatever, but like you said, you're not just trying to continuously go up and up and up. You're trying to give different stories from all different people, like competition organisers, athletes, all the different people. Have you reached out to Castro or Glassman yet? Have you tried to get them
I
on?
had Castro on
Castro before, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I had Castro on, but have you ever tried to get
6-8 months ago?
get Glassman?
No,
on?
I haven't reached out to Glassman.
That would be unreal. I think that's the one to get.
Yeah, that could be
that's
very
completely outrageous, and he's the last. He's the last big person. Rosa would be good as well.
I think that's a big one as well.
Yeah, Rosa would be a good one, just to get him on and see what he has to say and
Yeah.
stuff. It'd be interesting to see. Would they come on and would he say to you beforehand? Right, we're not talking about this and we're not talking about that. Has a guest ever
I'd
said
say-
that to you, Peter?
Has any?
Has anyone ever told you there's something off
in general, I
limits?
say to people like, oh, like it's not like gotcha. Like I'm not a journalist anyway, but it's not like gotcha journalism. I'm not trying to trap anyone. So in general, like before we start recording, I'll just say like, this is coming out, whatever, next week, in 2 weeks, whatever. So like email me tomorrow and say, oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that, or I wasn't allowed to say that yet, or my sponsor won't like that I said that, or I just realized that sounds offensive to that athlete and I didn't intend it that way, or whatever. Can you take that out? And I will, no problem. It almost never happens. Like almost never. They always, in general, 99% of people just go like, yeah, it'll probably be fine. And then afterwards, like I think twice I've gotten an email saying, once was like, I wasn't allowed to say that yet, and I thought that it was announced and it isn't, so can you take that out or delay the episode, one or the other. And then the other time was like, they just weren't happy with how they came across. Like they just didn't think they gave their best. Like they were jet lagged and a few other bits, and they were just like, can we just re-record it, because I think I was just shite.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, grand, no problem. But no, I never have I? No, I don't think I've ever had anyone say, don't, fucking, what do you call him? Linchpin. Oh my god.
Pat Sherwood.
Pat Sherwood.
Pat Sherwood. He fucking phoned me on Instagram, like video called me, and I was like, I'd messaged him. One of the listeners emailed him saying like that he should come on the show, and then I emailed him And he was like, yeah, that was a really nice letter. Like, John sent me a letter. It was really nice, blah, blah. I'm happy to come on the show. And I was like, cool, yeah, no problem. And then my phone rang and he was like Instagram video calling me. And I was like, hello. I assumed it was like a butt dial. And he was like, oh, I just want to see like what you're like and all the rest before agreeing to come on. I was like, oh, yeah, no problem. And he was like, I don't want to talk about like, he's like, I don't want to talk about like Castro, Glassman, CrossFit, like HQ, that kind of stuff, but I'll talk about anything else. And I was just like, yeah, fair enough. And just deleted any questions from my head that I was going to ask him about that kind of stuff. But yeah, like in general, you kind of get a feel within the first couple of minutes, like, you know, okay, they're not liking the way this questioning is going. Like, you know, they can see where it's going the same as I can, so I'll just pull back and change or whatever. Like, you can just kind of get better at, I guess, picking up little cues, I suppose.
Yeah, you've had so many episodes now, I'm sure that you're well able to read by their tonality and body language if things are going well or not. Did you try get Ricky Gerard? Did you try get him on? Or would you even have him on? Or what are you thinking about that? I heard you talk. I heard you talking about it before.
I talked to his brother. I
yeah.
remember saying to him, 'cause apparently he's very nervous about like.
He was up to no good as well, wasn't he, the brother?
Yeah,
He was, yeah.
Benny, yeah.
Mischief.
He tries to be. I think he's supposed to be a bit nervous about like. He's just kind of shy, I think. So I remember I was talking to his brother and I said, if he wants, he can record. He had just been announced that he was working with Justin Kotler, and I'd be fairly friendly with Justin. And I kind of said, like, look, if he wants, I can record with him, send you guys the episode, and if you're not happy with it, I'll just throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
And just see what comes out or whatever. And then like 3 days later, he was on the CrossFit Games podcast. So I was like, okay, they obviously offered him like a bit more of an audience, so that's fine. But yeah, then I think like it's actually cool. Like some cool stuff has happened. Like say, the reason he's working with Justin Kotler is because he heard my interview with Justin Kotler where I asked, who would you like to work with? And he said Ricky Gerard.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like there's been a few little bits like that where people have kind of gotten in touch with each other because they heard something or because they heard us talking about the other person or whatever. So like little bits like that. It's like the smallest possible level of involvement, but it's cool. Like it's just a nice like, oh, that's cool. And then you just kind of move on because obviously you get hung up on that kind of shit, you're on a hiding for nothing, I'd say.
That's class, man. And I heard, I was delighted when I heard Fraser saying to you that he's been listening to your podcast for a few years. That must have been, a real boost.
Yeah, that was cool. I think because it's him, like other people have said that, but it's like, you know, they're talking shit. Like, you know, they say like, oh, I love your podcast. And you know, like you feel like saying, what's your favorite episode?
Yeah.
But like when he said it, I was like, he's not the type to just say, I'm sure, like, say I had Jake on, I'm sure he listened to that one with Jake. I'm sure he listened to the ones with Keith and the ones with Sammy. I can't imagine him sitting down every fucking Wednesday and, like, putting in his earphones or whatever. But, like, it was nice that he said it, and it was nice that he bothered to say it, because I think the fact that he said it means he definitely has listened, because he's not the type to just blow smoke up your arse.
No.
And the fact that he said it and said it was good and wasn't like, I've listened to your podcast before, and then just silence. I think that the fact that a compliment came with it was good. But yeah, I think I kind of learned early on doing it, that you just kind of take the compliment, feel good for a couple of seconds, and then get over it and move on. Because if you get hung up on that, like, it'd be very easy to puff your chest out and be like, oh, I fucking made it. But like, in reality, like, it's still like a fucking sunflower seed, like, you know, it's tiny. So you just have to keep going, I suppose.
Brilliant, man. Absolutely brilliant. Well, look, you've had the who's who of CrossFit World on. We're massive fans. You know, we're going to keep listening. You're really showing us how to do things. Anyone that does podcasts, you're right out there.
Literally showing us.
In every way. But seriously, Peter, thanks very much for your good work, man. You're always entertaining. And I loved you up at the Powerful Invitational as well. I thought you were hilarious. You have a very dry sense of humour. You threw out a few jokes, and I'd be looking around, because I heard them. And I'd be looking around, and some people get them, other people don't. But you are fantastic at that. So I'd love to see you on the announcement floor again sometime.
Yeah, me too, Peter, man. That'd be
thanks. Thanks. No, there's been talk of a few different things, like Powerful again, and I think there's a few different bits down your way as well.
Yeah, well, look, we said it about the IFC as well, so we'll have another chat about that in July. But
Yeah.
look, I really appreciate you coming on, brother. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work. And
Thank you.
do you want to give a shout out to anyone now before we wrap it up?
Oh, shout out to Tom. Tom never gets a shout out.
Hey! Appreciate that, buddy. Appreciate that. So, that is episode 2, season 2 of the Irish Fitness Podcast. We will be back on Thursday night, Shane, for a
Thursday,
live
yeah.
announcement. That's tomorrow, really, isn't it?
That is tomorrow,
We'll
yeah.
be back tomorrow
Yeah.
night.
Came around quick.
Thanks again, Peter, and we shall see you soon.
Thanks, Peter.